research part of this real quick, okay? So if you've got the rubric on you, do you guys not have your rubric or any of your notes or anything with you today? How come people don't have their notebooks with them today? We all have one notebook. You guys should have your research on you because that's what we're going to be working on today. No? Okay. All right, well, remember, 30% or 30 points of the 100 points on this is about research. So we're going to talk about resources for a minute. Because when you look at, there's something I did, guys, when I gave you guys your assignments for your countries, is I wasn't very clear on the assignment sheet about the kind of resources you needed to have on your, for the test, or for your presentation. So I'm going to go over that real quick, and I'm going to show you guys where I changed my mind about something. Okay? Oh, my goodness. The resolution on my computer is way different than the resolution on the projector, and so sometimes I can't make things go down.
I did. Yesterday, I did email you yesterday and today. I took a really long nap, so I did it for the other 2 weeks. Huh? No, you don't. You take a nap. Alright. Get more fat.
So on the back side of where your directions are for your case files that I gave you, I want you to look at the very last thing. Yours is going to say something just a little bit different. But this is what it should say. So you guys should write in and change anything that's there. It's not much, but it is important. So a list of resources you use to create your presentation must come with your presentation. And this can be printed on a separate Word document page or the last slide of your presentation. That's the same, but what's different is this. You must use at least 4 primary or actually secondary sources. The Wikipedia page does not count as one of your sources, but is provided to give you a start on the basics. So I said just primary at first, which is not correct. It should have been primary and secondary. So that you should know. And on that note, we're going to talk about primary and secondary sources. What do I mean when I say, what does the word incredible mean, guys?
Incredible?
Incredible. Like unbelievable. Did you say unbelievable? Like unbelievable, right? So, and I was like, yes, that's exactly what I said. So, what is the opposite of unbelievable? Believable. Believable, right? So what would be the opposite of incredible? Credible, right? Okay, so I have something funny to show you guys.
I'm not gonna laugh.
It's gonna make you laugh, I promise.
I'm waiting to have a smile on my face.
If it doesn't, I will be a monkey's uncle. I don't know what a monkey's uncle is, but I will be one.
Oh, look at her.
See, he's incredible.
Oh my God.
Not incredible. Shush, Eric, you know you found that funny. You're laughing on the inside. So you wouldn't like me when I'm angry, because I always back up my rage with documented resources. See, like he even has his smart hole glasses on.
Oh, I didn't know you.
So anyway, so we're going to talk about resources and what is credible and what is incredible, and what is believable and unbelievable. And we're going to do it by watching videos. Yay! All right. So what I need you guys to do is we're going to watch 2 very short videos. One's about 7 minutes long, one's about 4 minutes long. And during the videos, I want you guys to take Cornell notes so you can write down some of the things that they're going to tell you, because they're going to be important when you're finishing up your research, okay? And then I'm going to, and if you guys have any questions, I want you to write them down and we'll talk about it between the videos. So the first video is about primary and secondary resources. It's about 4 minutes long. Eric, oh, you want me to email that picture to you, Eric? Okay, I'll get right on that.
Oh.
I know you liked it.
The difference between primary and secondary.
I'll probably go.
Okay, so this is from a college in Texas that's a
I'll probably be anorexic.
All right, I need everyone to focus. I need you to have a piece of paper out in front of you right now and a pen. Because we're going to take Cornell notes on this. This is going to help you on your final grade for your research project, okay? Ready to go, Miguel? Huh? You can put it in your notebook, yes. We'll write it into your notes. Okay. Everybody ready to take notes? You sharpen your pencil? Yes, you can sharpen your pencil.
Wait here.
Job top, Eric. Let's go. That's a lot of notes. Dude, use the pick with your notebook. You're sweating over it. Yeah, you need to open that up and have to be ready to take notes. Really? Wow. You're just ready. Okay, all right. I need everyone. Stop all the side chatter. Let's watch our video, okay? And take notes.
Do you have an assignment that calls for primary and secondary sources? Do you need some help distinguishing between them? This tutorial will help you tell the difference between primary and secondary sources. You'll learn about their characteristics. You'll see some examples of each, and you'll learn about how and when to use primary and secondary sources. Let me tell you about some of the characteristics of primary sources. They are first-hand accounts and/or individual representations. Primary sources are created by those who have directly witnessed what they are describing. They are original documents and usually don't describe or analyze other documents. Primary sources may be published, but sometimes they are unpublished.
What do you guys think the videos and pictures I asked you to use in your project are? Are they primary or secondary sources? Primary, right? Unless the video is a news report. If it's somebody just talking about something that happened, that would be a secondary account, right? But if it's somebody who was there filming it or whatever as it happened, if you have that is primary. So that's the kind of the cloudy line between the two. But I just wanted to distinguish that. Okay. And you guys don't need to write down every single one of these things, but I would write down the history one or the social sciences one. Okay? These are primary source examples, different kinds of things.
So how can primary sources be used?
So you guys want me to go back and let you write it down?
Primary sources can be viewed as
One more.
Got it, Eric? links up for this on Schoology too. If you guys want to look at the video at another time, you can go back and look at this too if you didn't get all of it. Okay? But you should definitely have the history part written down.
So how can primary sources be used? Primary sources can be viewed as the focal point of a discussion. Use primary sources when you want to make claims or criticisms. Use them as evidence for theories, or when you want to gain timely perspectives on a subject.
Yeah. So these are answers to the question, when should I use primary sources? As a focal point of discussion, which means as like the topic. The focal point also means a topic when you're focused on a particular point of something as a focal point of discussion. Claims and criticisms. I'm looking at somebody doing something and I'm wondering if that's actually true or what they're actually saying is true. So I'm going to focus and look at the speech they gave or the act they committed, and I'm going to establish their claims, or I'm going to criticize whether it's right or wrong or good or bad or accurate. Evidence for theories. So it's kind of like proof. Primary sources are proof. Pictures or it didn't happen, right? Is that what we say? Picture it didn't happen? Picture a primary source, right? And you can use them for evidence for theories. And timely perspectives. It's like looking at a speech that Roosevelt gave versus looking at a speech that Obama gave. There's time there. They use different words. They talk about different things. They talk about the internet. They talk about immigration in different ways. So a timely perspective would be to look at the way that Roosevelt gave a speech versus the way that Obama gave a speech. Okay? You guys got this? Can I move on?
Yes.
Okay. You sure, Dottie?
Let me tell you about some of the characteristics of secondary sources. Secondary sources interpret and or analyze primary sources. These sources are at least a step removed from what they're describing. Usually, secondary sources are published works.
Can you pause on this?
Yes. Take about 10 more seconds, and like I said, there'll be links to these on Schoology underneath your links. Am I in your way? Sorry, Garcia. Okay, all right, let's move on, guys. Oh, did this already go out of? Oh, my computer.
What can secondary sources be used for? You can view secondary sources as part of a conversation about a topic. Use secondary sources when you want to see what others have discussed. They can be a good place to gather background information on a topic. You can also use secondary sources to explore what subtopics have already been studied on a given topic.
So part of a conversation about a topic. Chances are any topic you pick in this year or in the near future when you're in college, someone's already going to have talked about it a little bit, don't you think? I don't think we're going to come up with we're going to be the first people to come up with topics. So part of a conversation about a topic it would be to go look at something like a quarterly magazine that publishes articles on your topic to see what people are talking about regarding your topic. You guys have found out already that other people are talking about Sierra Leone, they're talking about Afghanistan, they're talking about Nicaragua, all of those places, right? So anyone who's reporting on it or writing articles on it, that's a secondary source talking about the topic. See what others have discussed. Kind of the same thing here, but it's kind of like distinguishing to see how many other people have talked about it, because sometimes it's good to have a lot. If there's a lot of evidence about something, that makes it even that much more valid if a lot of people are agreeing on your point of view about something. To gather background information, so gathering background info would mean like looking in encyclopedias. Encyclopedias are not primary sources, they're secondary sources. But they're not opinion pieces either, they're just full of facts, right? Statistics, data, minerals, you know, all of that stuff, kind of like Wikipedia. Okay, let's move on.
A source's classification as primary or secondary can change depending on the topic that you're studying. For example, if you're writing about how news is represented on the internet, a news site like CNN.com could be considered a primary source. You're studying news on the internet, and CNN.com represents the object that you're studying. However, if you're writing about political elections and you find an article on CNN.com that analyzes them, the article would be considered a secondary source. Since you're studying elections, an article on CNN.com about them is a step removed from the object that you're studying.
So do you guys see the difference here? When it's a primary source, the article, what you're writing, is about CNN and about internet news. Here, the topic is not internet news. So therefore, anything you find on CNN.com becomes a secondary source because you found a resource there, but it's not about the source. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So are we clear? Do we feel confident about primary and secondary sources now?
Yep, I don't think I don't know.
Can we be a little bit more emphatic? How are we doing, Mark Cruz? Okay. All right. Okay. On that note, let's talk about internet sources as themselves, and let's see what people have to say about that. Okay.
Goes for websites. There's a lot of use. If a stranger came up and started speaking to you on the street, you'd probably want to know a little bit more about him and what he was saying before you took him seriously. The same goes for websites. There's a lot of useful information on the internet, but since anyone with web access can publish to it, it's crucial to evaluate those sources when considering their information. In this tutorial, you'll learn about the importance for evaluating information on the internet. You'll learn about some questions to consider when you're looking at websites, and you'll get some practical tips about how to evaluate internet sites. Many of us use the internet to gather information for all sorts of things. We might use that information to make medical decisions, political decisions, financial decisions, or social decisions. Our whole way of viewing the world is based on the information that we encounter, and these days, a lot of that information comes from the internet. That's why it's so important to really evaluate and look at the information that you find on the internet. Of course, evaluating internet information is also good for your assignments. It'll make your research better, strengthen your arguments, and get you a better grade.
That sounds good.
Keep in mind that while Google is a great search engine, there are others out there to try too. Different search engines work in different ways and will return different results. It's good to review as many results as you can manage. That's not to say that you'll ever be able to look at all of the results on a given topic, but only looking at the first few hits on a given search probably won't give you a very good idea about different things that have been written on your topic. When you're looking at a website, first ask yourself, who wrote this information? What can you gather about the author's background? Is the author an expert on this topic? Is he or she very opinionated on this topic? How does that inform what the author has written? You might have to do a little bit of digging to find out about your page's author. If you don't see the author's name immediately, look for links such as info, about, or other terms that might lead you to more information about the page's author. Once you have the author's name, try Googling it to get some more information about other things that author might have written or things that other people have said about him or her. When you know a little bit more about the author, think about how what you've learned impacts what he or she has written. This can help you to decide whether or not to use this website as a source that you want to use to make decisions or base your research on. If you do decide to use the site, knowing about the author will help you to analyze the information that you've found and use it more effectively. Next, consider the type of site that this information is coming from. Is the page supported by a group, organization, or company? What does the group stand to gain by convincing others of its points? This could be monetary, political, or something else. Is the information likely to have been reviewed by other people before it was published? Or is this information from a personal site where someone is expressing his own opinions? Again, you might have to look around a little bit on the site to figure out who supports the points that are being expressed, or potential biases that these groups might hold. You can look for info or about links. The URL can also...
What does it mean to be biased about something? Someone tell me what it means to be biased. You know what it means to be biased? When I say I'm biased about something, what does that mean for me?
You already have your opinion set.
Right, my opinion is I already have a solid opinion about something, right? And I believe a certain way about certain things, right? So why would it be important when doing research and looking for facts to find unbiased facts?
Because if someone already has their mind set up, they're going to have, well, let's say I don't like coffee. I'm going to talk about my opinion on how I see it, I guess.
And you're going to talk about how coffee is awful and how, no one should ever drink it, right? Well.
And it's not necessarily, I'm not necessarily putting out information about it. I'm more putting my opinion on what I think.
Okay, cool. Do you guys get that? So a biased opinion means that someone has a very strong feeling or opinion about something, and it influences things that they might say or do or write on the internet. What about Fox News? Is Fox News biased or unbiased? What do you guys think? Is it unbiased or biased journalism? Think back to last semester when we were talking about governments. Right, and now what is it biased towards? What is their bias? What are their political views on Fox News? Are they conservative or are they liberal? Conservative, right, yeah. So that would mean, if I were talking about their bias, I would say that Fox News has a conservative bias.
Marvin said they're white, so.
Well, there is that part too. They are very white. Except for Marco Rubio. But MSNBC also has a bias. What is their bias? It's another news outlet. They're more liberal, exactly. They have a very liberal bias. They're pro-Democratic Party, they're pro, so if I wanted an unbiased opinion from the television about politics, would I go to those pages? Would I go to those networks and watch their stuff? Okay. What can you guys think of as an unbiased reporting? Not necessarily on TV, but anything. Who is? CNN attempts to be neutral. I think that there was other opinions there that besides. CNN reports everything. They reported the heck out of that cruise ship last week, didn't they?
Did you know the cruise ship, the one that flipped last year?
Yeah, it's still marked there.
It's
isn't
still
it?
there.
Yeah,
They haven't
yeah.
started up yet.
Okay, let's carry on with this.
Oh my God.
Alright.
This would be helpful. Educational or governmental sites are more likely to provide more objective information. Commercial sites are usually motivated to make money in some way.
This is not a very good focus, and I'm sorry about that.
Yes, you don't-
What is that right there? .com?
.com.
What does com mean?
Money.
What is it short for in this case? Do you guys know? It's okay if you don't
Oh,
know.
someone told us. Did you know? Were you?
What you were about to say? It's
I don't know it, but it's something like that. Something.
You guys know the Chamber of
Commerce.
There you go.
Commerce.
Okay. Com means commerce, and when you get a com link on something, that means that your website in some way or another is making you money. Whether it be like Amazon where you're selling stuff, or whether it be like Facebook where they sell ads. That's still Facebook.com, right? Even though it's not like you're not like buying products from Facebook, it's still Facebook.com. Anything that's .org means organization, which means that it's like a nonprofit organization, most likely that's like helping people in some way, or is not there. They're there to inform. They're not there to make money. Now they may take donations for their organization, like in a charitable way, but they're not making money. They're there to inform and help. And .net means network, which is just information. When a lot of people who create blogs just create .nets because they're just there to talk. They're not there to raise money. They're not there to get ads. You know, they're just to blog about their dog.
But don't they
Is
yes,
.org,
right?
is .org like an organization?
Org stands for organization. Yes. Net stands for network. Networking. You guys know what networking means? It's communicating with each other. There's .info.
That was my MySpace.
There's .edu, which is education. There's .gov, which is government. And they're going to talk about a few more of those, okay?
Does anybody have?
Tildes or percent signs followed by personal names usually indicate personal sites. Shortening the URL to find the home page of the site that you're viewing might also give you some more information about any groups or organizations that this information is aligned with. When you know more about potential motivations or biases associated with the site, think about how these might affect the information that you're viewing. Also consider your own emotional attachment to the content of the site. Are you able to objectively evaluate it? Next, ask yourself what sort of evidence the author provides for the points that he or she is trying to make. Does the site list citations for or link out to other websites, data, or print resources? Do links provided actually work? Can you verify evidence used in the site? Does the site rely on evidence from many different sources or just a couple? The more verifiable evidence that a site uses, the more likely that the information that that site is trying to convey is accurate. Finally, consider when this information was published or last updated. People view different topics differently and talk about them in different ways at different times. Make sure that the site you're viewing is either up to date or published at a time that is relevant to the topic that you're studying. Here are some tips about how to find information that will allow you to evaluate websites. We've mentioned a few already. Scan the perimeter of the page and look for links such as about, info, the author's name, the publication date. Remember that shortening the URL to find the website's homepage might help you get more information about sponsors of the site or organizations that are aligned with it. After getting information from the website itself, try doing an outside search for any authors' names or organization titles to see what other people have said about these entities. Finally, remember to think of the big picture. How do all the clues that you've discovered impact the information that you're trying to decide to use as a source for your paper or for decisions that you make in your life? When you're researching on the web, be a skeptic. When you're taking in any information, it's good to think about factors that might impact it. This will help you to make stronger arguments and better decisions. You'd be skeptical about a stranger's word on the street. It's good to think about internet sources in the same way.
Did you guys see that Super Bowl commercial where there's the blonde lady standing on her porch with the other guy? It's a State Farm commercial, and they were talking about car insurance or whatever, and she says something to him, and he's like, and she says something that's just like totally obviously wrong about insurance, and the guy looks at her and says, "Where did you hear that?" And she goes, "Oh, the internet. They can't put it on the internet if it's not real, right?"
Where'd you hear that from?
And then this guy walks up, and says that he's a French model, and he's not a French model, and he goes, "Bonjour," and she's like, "Oh yeah, I met him on the internet. He said he's a French model." Okay, this is a pretty funny commercial, but anyway, don't believe everything you read on the internet. Double check where it comes from. That's what that was the whole.
Have you seen the other one, Miss? About the
No.
You can look the motorcycle. Oh yeah, got it fixed.
Yes.
That was funny. That was super funny. Yeah.
Okay, so one last thing I want to go over.
Hey, you want to race?
Before we go downstairs, is I want to look. Okay, so you guys look. Here's Schoology. Here's period 4, which is you guys, which you guys all have access to. And so over here on this link over here, where it says you'll have a materials link. When you log into Schoology, if you go to files and links, there's one that got put up today.
We don't have any quizzes coming up, right?
No, I'm trying to help you guys out here. So we're going to look at this link right here that says MLA Works Cited Formatting Guidelines. This is the kind of formatting you guys should use when you're creating the list of references. Okay, this is the Cornell University website.
Did you go there?
No, I did not go to Cornell University, but you guys just wrote Cornell notes.
Oh my God.
Okay, so you guys aren't going to have to do citations inside of your PowerPoint because you're not writing a paper, you're writing a PowerPoint presentation. But at the end, you will have to do a works cited list, and you should say that the works cited should be the title of the page. And here are all of the different examples of how you should write your sources. There's books. This is what a book should look like. Last name, first name, title of book, italicized. Place of publication, publisher year. You guys aren't doing books though. You're mostly using websites. Who's using anything besides a website? Is anyone using a magazine article or anything? No. Okay. So let's go right on down. Scrolling down. It has all of the other things you should be talking right now. Perfect analyses. So all the way down to past magazine articles, past federal documents, past audiovisual. Okay. So you guys are going to use a video, right? A lot of you are going to use a video, right? Title of video. If you don't know the director, that's okay. What I would put there instead, if it's a YouTube video, put the name of the user on YouTube or publish it. Okay? The year, it'll most likely, there will be a date that it went up on YouTube if you're using a YouTube video. And then YouTube, I put YouTube here, or internet video. And then, I don't know, no, not the, so yeah, so that's what a film or video recording would look like. Let's see if there's a more specific one for online sources. Okay, so citations for online sources, like those for print sources, should provide information that both identifies a source and allows that source to be located and retrieved again. In other words, give me a link. So web page, here's how to do a web page. Wikipedia, quotes, Cornell University Library, where it came from, okay? What year, there are dates, all of this information is at the bottom of a page usually. And you can look around for it, you dig around for it. If you guys need help, let me know when we're downstairs, okay? Personal website, the person's name, entry in an online encyclopedia, article from a less familiar online reference book. article in an online periodical. What's a periodical? Online. Is it an online magazine? Okay, very good. Okay. All right, so all of this is on Schoology for you guys to use when you're creating your references page or your works cited page. All right, let's go downstairs and get our research done, okay? I want everyone working in their groups, with their group. Today's the last
Back up
Same
here?
thing
No.
on Tuesday, huh?
They could be
We're
back
not
here.
coming back up here. All right, listen up, guys. I'm gonna go back over your instructions again. Everybody has this for your country. There's a good little juicy tidbit about your country right here. There are 4 multi-questions that your PowerPoint should address. Your overall theme is report how globalization, which we've been talking about for about 2 weeks now, is affecting your country. Research what sources, land, labor, capital. We talked about land, labor, capital in our first unit. Each of your countries has at least one of these things in abundance. And yet, because of different circumstances, there's still what is considered a developing country instead of a developed country. How can Sierra Leone have diamonds coming out their ears and still be a war-torn country that lives in poverty? How can Myanmar have such a populous country, populous nation, and they've just lost their dictator? Listen up, guys, listen up. Okay. So, research what sources, land, labor, capital your country has. Who controls them? To what country or countries do these resources get exported? Who does China export all of their, so much of their goods that they make to? That would be us, right? Let's find out if it happens in other places too. Who gets all the coffee that gets grown in Nicaragua? Who gets the diamonds from Sierra Leone? Who gets all of the cell phone materials like coltan and copper and lithium that are in the DRC? Yeah, right? And other populous countries, and other prospering countries, right? Okay, research the political climate of your country. What does political climate mean? You want to tell me what I mean when I say political climate? What did you say, Mary? Like how's the government doing, right? How are the people feeling about the politics in their country? What conflicts or wars are happening there? Who are the leaders of the country? Are the people struggling? Why or why not? What kind of government do they have? What are their social resources? Do they have welfare? Do they have schools? Do they have Medicare? Does the government provide it, or do they have to find it for themselves? Research which organizations are working in the country to help the citizens of your country. Every one of us has been sitting and watching late night TV. Listen up, guys. Been sitting watching late night TV like Adult Swim or The Daily Show or whatever, and some poor woman comes on and says, "Oh, for just 30 cents a day, you can feed this person in this country, right? Please donate to us and give us your time." Right? You guys have all seen that kind of commercial before, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Which one of these organizations is helping your country? Look them up. Research what you think could be a solution to your country's problems. Now that you figured out what all their problems are, what do they need to start a revolution? Do they need a better government? Do they need to quit taking money from outside sources? What do they need to do, if anything? There's a lot of questions here, guys, and you don't have to have an answer to every single one of them. These questions are designed to help you think about the overall idea, which is report how globalization is affecting your country. All of these questions are to get you guys thinking about how that can be solved, okay? Or how that can be answered. Your presentation, 10 to 15 minutes. You must include a visual presentation, PowerPoint, poster, or Prezi. Prezi, you guys want me to show you how to use Prezi before today's over with? I'll show you how to use Prezi, it's kind of cool. But PowerPoint is also fine, or you can do a poster. You can use pictures. I encourage you to use pictures. What do we learn pictures are? Are they primary or secondary resources? They're primary, right? Pictures of your country and what's going on there are primary. You can also use a video, 3 minutes. I'll give you up to 4 if you want to use up to 4 minutes. That would take up a good chunk of your presentation time, wouldn't it? Yeah. But it needs to be a valid video. It can't just be like one that, it's not, we're not looking for the, I can't say that word here, but you guys have the TV show Jack Blank?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not that kind of video. We're looking for a legitimate video, like a news report. Something like that. I'll be right there, Natalie. Hold on. And then when you guys all give your presentation on Tuesday, everybody needs to come up and everybody needs to talk. You guys should all have a point to make when you come up and talk about your country. And you are being graded on participation, so it's a group deal. So if you don't talk, your grade on that should be diminished. And my suggestion for that is that you can have more than 4 or 5 slides. You should have more than 4 or 5 slides. But if you're not, but everybody should have at least 1 slide that is their slide to talk about. Does that make sense? When you're going through, when you click to the next slide, now it's Nell's turn to talk. When you click to the next slide, now it's Caesar's turn to talk. When you click to the next slide, now it's Dahlia's turn to talk. Does that make sense? Okay. And finally, we talked about upstairs a list of resources. Your last slide, or it can be on its own page if you're not using PowerPoint. It should be the title should be works cited, and I should have at least three different things there that you use to report on your country, that you use in your PowerPoint presentation to find the information that you're going to give us. There's also going to be Q&A. We're going to have questions for you at the end of your presentation. That is not part of your time, but that is part of the presentation. Okay, who has questions now? No? Okay. All right, Natalie, what was your question? You guys get to work. You've got less than an hour.
Los Morales. Mr. Morales. Mr. Miguel Morales.
Findthedata.org.
Dr. Morales. Dr. Morales.
Those are all good facts. Now, what do we gather about to report how globalization is affecting your country? Now that you have all this, how is globalization?
All these things.
Okay, you got this. Miguel, you're working on a PowerPoint. Good job. You guys, look at this. This is teamwork, guys. And that, we're Katie right now. Griselda is writing down facts. Natalie is writing down statistics. And Miguel is working on a PowerPoint presentation, putting it all together. This is how you guys should all be rolling right now. There are laptops over here too if you don't want to use the computer in front of you.